Hey everyone, this is Julie, the cancer dietitian, and I am here this afternoon to give you my favorite granola recipe. So if you follow me on social media, you saw that I posted my ingredients picture earlier this morning as I was getting ready. This is one of my very favorite recipes because your kitchen smells delicious while it's cooking. It's really simple and it tastes really good on lots of different things. It also makes for great gifts. So I'll give you tips as we go along as to different times that you might be able to use it to prep ahead of time for future or for giving as gifts for people. And now is a great time to be treating your neighbors to some baked goods. So you can count granola as one of those healthy baked goods. So I do have this recipe on my website, which is cancerdietitian.com, but I am going to read you the ingredients up front so that you can make sure to write it down. And then we'll also have this video over on the website as well as here on the Facebook page. So you ready for your ingredients? Everybody got their paper? They got their pen? Your recipe card? I print these out at work so we can hand them out. But here are your ingredients, and they're pretty fluid. I'll tell you how you can alter the recipe, but just for the basis, these are the ingredients. 1.5 cups of rolled oats, 1/2 cup coconut, unsweetened or sweetened, whatever you can find, 1/4 cup of brown sugar, 1/2 cup of almonds, 1 cup of pecans, 1 tablespoon of cinnamon, salt, 1/4 cup of molasses, 1/4 cup of vegetable oil, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla. So I hope you caught all that. So what we're going to do is make our recipe today, and I'll talk to you about how you can make some alterations. So the thing about granola is the most important thing that you do is you have the right ratio of dry ingredients to wet ingredients. So this is why I say you can kind of alter it. So I gave you the basic ingredients for the oats and the nuts. But if you have more nuts, you can always put more in. If you don't have nuts and you have a lot of oats, you can put more oats in. If you have nut allergies in your household, don't put any nuts in. You could put seeds in instead, or you could just leave it as oats. The nuts do provide healthy fats and more fiber, but oats are a great source of fiber. They're a whole grain, and so you don't have to have nuts in your granola if you don't want to. You get to choose your own adventure. The important thing is basically the volume of dry ingredients adds up. So if you want to put less oats and more nuts, let's say you want to put 1 cup of oats and you want to put 1.5 cups of pecans, that's fine. So you get to alter that however works for you, especially in this time and day where you may not be getting to the grocery store. You're just going to use whatever it is that you have in your pantry. So I do have 1.5 cups of oats. These are just regular rolled oats, not the instant oats, but the regular ones. Here we go. This is really complicated. Pour it in. So I start with all the dry ingredients, then you pour the wet ingredients on top and you stir it up, and we'll put it in our pan and then stick it in the oven. So the other thing I'll point out is if you really like to plan ahead, if you're somebody who likes to make sure you've got everything ready, what you can do is actually create little granola kits that you would keep in your freezer, and you would put all the dry ingredients into a freezer safe bag or some kind of freezer safe container, and then mark right on the bag how much and what types of wet ingredients to add to it, and that way you don't even have to measure stuff when you go to make your granola. And I have done that before where I'll make one set of granola in my oven at the time, and then I'll go ahead and prepare like 2 or 3 other bags of dry ingredients to keep in my freezer, which just makes the next recipes that much easier. The reason that I like to do it that way is I think fresh baked out of the oven, it just tastes really good, and so rather than making a whole lot of batches all at once, I like to prepare the ingredients ahead of time. So we have our 1.5 cups of oats, and then we have half cup of coconut. So there's my coconut. We have 1/4 cup of brown sugar. Whoop. Packed in there. There we go. We have 1/2 cup of almonds. I like to get from Costco, I like to get the almonds that are already roasted and they're ready to go because it makes my life real easy. I'm not going to cut them myself. And then I have pecans. So is another choice you can make. You could put the whole pecans in. You could put the pecans on a cutting board and use a knife to chop them. But this is how I do it. So this is a chopper. So it's all by hand. And in my granola, I don't actually like big chunks of things. And so I like to have my pecans nice and chopped up. And we use this for pecans. I use it for walnuts, like if I'm going to make baked goods that have walnuts in it. I also use this with peanuts just to make them, if you're going to put them on a dish where you're sprinkling them on, it just makes them the perfect size. Really simple. This is also a fun thing that, you know, if you have any little people in your house, they can help you grind up the nuts with the nut chopper. So I'll put some of them ground and I'll put the rest of them whole. And again, you could use any types of nuts in this recipe. I have used cashews before. You could use pistachios. You could use pumpkin seeds. Really, it's anything that sounds good to you. So there we have that. Now, here's a little tip. If you have one of these grinders, do not try to grind up almonds, because almonds are very hard and they will break your grinder. Okay, the rest of them I'm going to put in whole, so we have a little combination. All right, so we did our nuts, and then I like to put all the dry ingredients first. Also, if you want to make a nice little gift for somebody, you know how kind of at Christmas time you might get those cookie kits where they give you all the dry ingredients and they tell you what to add to make your cookie dough? You can do that with granola too. So you can put all the dry ingredients in a jar and then just add the recipe for the person you're giving it to. You just tell them what wet ingredients to add and how to cook it in the oven. And I think that's really fun. And it's very pretty because it's like a layered thing in your jar. Just very aesthetically pleasing. All right, so we're going to add our 1 tablespoon of cinnamon. So the cinnamon, it seems like a lot. A tablespoon seems like a lot, but it really smells amazing and tastes amazing. So I think it's the perfect amount. All right, so those are the dry ingredients. So I just like to mix them up a little bit. And then what we'll do is add the wet ingredients. Now, if any of you have made granola before, I used to make a different granola recipe until one of my interns several years ago introduced me to this one. And the recipe that I used to make came from my mother-in-law, and it was a lot more labor intensive, and it was of course delicious as well. But like, you cooked the wet ingredients on the stove and you baked the dry ingredients, first the oats and the nuts, and you'd bring them out and stir them and put them back in, and then you'd heat the things up in the pan and then add it and then put it back in the oven and take it out and stir it. And it was this 2-hour process, and I really liked it, but I was like, why does it have to take so long? And enter my nutrition intern about, I don't know, it might have been 6 or 7 years ago, was one of my first interns, and she was like, oh, I've done this granola video before. And I had her do it at every group we had, and I couldn't believe, all you do is this, and then we'll add our wet ingredients, and we stick it in the oven for 20 minutes and it's done. There was no extra work involved, and so I switched over to this recipe real quick. All right, so for our wet ingredients, we have a 1/4 cup of oil, and you can use any oil. I'm using canola oil here. And this is the secret. So I always have a process for everything. With this recipe, you want to do the oil before you do the molasses. Or if you don't have molasses, you can use honey. I like using molasses because it has more iron in it, and it just adds a really great flavor to the granola. I had someone one time say, this is the best granola I've ever had, and I'm pretty sure it was because of the molasses. But honey and molasses are really sticky. So when you do the oil in your measuring cup first, it makes your life easier because the molasses and the honey don't stick to the edges of your container. So there's a little tip for you anytime you're cooking. If you have to use honey and you don't want it to stick, put a little bit of oil in your measuring cup or your measuring spoon first. All right, so there's our molasses. Scoops right out, perfectly clean. Okay, so we did vegetable oil, we did molasses, we have a teaspoon of vanilla, and we have a little pinch of salt. So this is about I don't know, a 1/4 teaspoon. And then we will do 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And that is it. Now all we do, stir it up. The molasses makes it a really great kind of dark brown color, which is also nice because then it comes out of the oven looking really, really toasty. So what you do is stir all that up, and then you set your oven to, where is it, 325. Sometimes I put it to 350 because for whatever reason my oven doesn't seem to be as hot. So I like to make sure that it's nice and hot. And then what you'll do is you'll put it in for 10 minutes, take it out, kind of stir it around, put it in for 10 more minutes, and then that's it. You take it out, and then you let it cool a little bit before you put it in your container, because if you put it in your container right away, it's going to stick together because it is a little bit sticky. And if you're like me, I like it not to be stuck together. I don't like big chunks of granola. It's just my thing. If I'm eating it with cereal or with yogurt, I like it to mix in, and I don't like big old chunks. So once you have it ready and you cook it, then you just pull it out and let it cool in your pan and kind of stir it around a little bit, and then put it in your storage containers. Or better yet, put it in a bowl and eat some because it's so good when it's warm. So that's all there is to it. I lay it out here. I like to put it on one of these kind of non-stick. This is a baking stone. And then you put it right in the oven that way. Bake it 10 minutes, stir it, bake it again. The other option you have on the baking piece is that you could use parchment paper, or you could use one of those baking mats so that it doesn't stick down to the pan. And then it makes your cleanup really easy. But with these non-stick, other than the fact that they're super heavy, they're very convenient to clean up. So that's it. I hope that you like it, because everybody I've ever made it for likes it. So don't be telling me if you don't like it. Only tell me if you like it. But that's it. I'll make sure to put the recipe up on my website, put the video up there, and then you can check it out, try it out yourself, and let me know what you think. Thanks so much. See you later.